This is Rick Munn. This is No Risk, No Reward Media. Just want to give a brief update on some of the events that are happening in Ireland at the minute against the backdrop of a worsening housing crisis in Ireland, the lack of any action that's being taken to address that problem, some of the shenanigans that are going on with Irish people that are simply trying to provide a roof over their own heads, and a worsening asylum-seeking application problem that we're also having here in Ireland. So, first story that I want to go to is reported via News Talk. Here we can see a record number of people from around the world have sought asylum in Ireland during 2024, though not as many as predicted. Note the way they like to slide that little, it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be, but it's worse than it's ever been. Notice the reporting strategy there. 18,561 people applied for international protection in Ireland in 2024, the highest figures since records began, but not as many as people predicted. It doesn't matter what people predict. What matters is what actually happens. And what has actually happened is here we have record-breaking numbers. So the number of people, our asylum applications, exceeded the previous peak in 2022 by 36%. That is a huge increase, while last year's figures represent a 40% increase on 2023. So these aren't single-digit increases that we're seeing here. And it's bad enough if we were seeing single-digit increases against a backdrop of not having any actual accommodation to put people in, and against a backdrop of chronic Irish homelessness. Here we have a 40% increase in asylum seeker applications in Ireland on 2023. Meanwhile, in the last 3 years, over 45,000 people have applied for asylum in Ireland. The government struggled to source accommodation for asylum seekers throughout last year. Note, that's a problem, an acknowledged problem that the government has, but yet the numbers are still increasing. And this is only in relation to what they're saying. They're having trouble housing asylum seekers. What about the Irish people that are sitting on waiting lists? Over 10,000 people, men, women and children sitting in Ireland, can't get a roof over their heads, let alone the burgeoning asylum seeker applications. Last year, they struggled. There are currently 3,099 international protection applicants who are without an offer of accommodation. Well, this is Ireland, so they can join the club. Unfortunately, there are many, many Irish people that are in the same boat. So this is a problem that's ongoing. It's not getting any better, and in fact, it is getting worse. And nothing is being done to physically address this problem that is ongoing. You would think, with the amount of people that are flooding into the country at the moment and the chronic problem with homelessness among Irish people, that actions would be taken to address this in the shape and form of house building. But that does not look like that is the case. So another article that we'll have a look at here today. This was just brought up by the Irish Independent, I believe it is. Housing construction starts to fall in 2025 and 2026, says a report. So that's going through this year and on into next year. Remember, this is against an increasing amount of people that are applying for asylum in Ireland, and the government admitting there's a problem, and that thousands and thousands of people are without an offer of accommodation, any accommodation whatsoever. Home building shortage is exacerbated by a skills gap in the construction sector, says the industry group CIS. Well, I was told or led to believe by the government that one of the reasons why so many people are coming into Ireland at the minute is because, it's to make up for a lack of labour and a lack of manpower in the construction industry and various other industries. Now we're being told that home building shortage is exacerbated by a skills gap in the construction sector, says industry group CIS. The number of housing construction starts will decline this year and in 2026, with huge pent-up demand continuing to push home prices higher. So again, this is a worsening problem and nothing is being done to address it. At least nothing sufficient is being done to address it. And going forward into this year, 2025, and next year into 2026, we're told that less is going to be done against a worsening problem. So you have pressure, or as it's described here as huge pent up demand, continuing to push home prices up further. That's just going to price more and more people out of buying their own home here in Ireland, which is leading to a lot of young people leaving the country for pastures new because they can't set up home and put their roots down in their own country because of a lack of availability of houses, affordable houses. They can't get on the housing ladder, and the same problem is being experienced in the rental market. There are just simply not enough rental properties at affordable prices for people to come and live and work in the area that they want to live and work in. So the question has to be asked, what's being done about this? And from what I can see here, the answer would be precious little. And just to look at some more details on this report here, the analysis group Construction Information Services has said that housing construction was a huge driver of industry activity in Ireland during 2024 last year, but that supply remains far short of the government's target. So it's not even they're coming close to meeting demand, or they're falling a little bit behind on meeting demand. It says they're falling far short of the government's target. So the CIS has said construction of 55,000 new housing units started by the end of the third quarter in 2024. That compares to 33,000 for the whole of 2023. However, the firm warned that 20,000 completions recorded by the end of the third quarter last year is significantly lower than the government target of 33,500 new homes built every year. That's massively falling short of what is needed and what is required. And these, again, are the government's own figures and the government's own targets. This shortage is exacerbated by a skills gap in the construction sector, which hampers the speed at which new housing can be developed and the cost of materials, notes the CIS report. So the bottom line is a lot of excuses are being brought forth as to why targets are not being met, talking about a lack of skills gap, hampering the speed that the housing can be developed, the cost of materials. But this is a problem that has been in existence for a very, very long time. There shouldn't be a moment of clarity right now from the government to say, well, we're lacking this and we're lacking that and we're lacking the other. These shortages and shortfalls have been in place for quite some time, but it's only now that it's being brought to light. Now, there is a case of at least one Irishman in particular that has made the headlines recently, someone that is trying to provide a roof over his own head, doing it on his own initiative, on his own land, but is met with threats and threats of prosecution by the Irish government or the Irish establishment. This man in question is a certain Sean Meehan from Tipperary. This is an article that was published and reported on extensively by Gript Media in Ireland. Gript.ie, I believe, is their website. Go along and check out their content. Tipperary man Sean Meehan, who is fighting to save a wooden cased mobile home erected on his own land. Notice it's his own land, and it's something that he has put up himself to live in on his own land, has said that he received a devastating update on the case during the Christmas week. Meehan, who is 66 years of age, is originally from the area, was told by the planning board that he had not satisfied them, that he was a social or economic need to live in his native part of the country where he says he was born and raised. Here we have an Irishman from Tipperary who can't convince the planning board that he has a social or economic need to live in the area that he was born and raised in. Speaking to Gript Media, he said that he had been informed by the planning board that they were experiencing backlogs and that a decision would likely be given on or around the 9th of March. So the details of this particular case are as follows. This man, Sean Meehan, Separated from his wife, he purchased a disused patch of land between two existing houses. Notice he bought it out of his own pocket, brought a mobile home onto the land without seeking approval from the local county council. He previously told Gript that he had cleaned up the land, which was being used as a local dumping ground, and was strewn with abandoned appliances like washing machines. So again, the local council weren't particularly fussed about this part of land when it was being used as a fly tipping spot for disused electrical appliances. But when Sean Meehan came along, he bought the land, he cleaned it up, and he put a porta cabin, effectively, or a mobile home on there to house himself. All of a sudden, interest is attracted. So after being notified of the existence of Meehan's home, Tipperary County Council ordered him to remove the mobile home off the land he owns and have been pursuing him through the court for the last 4 years. Absolutely ridiculous. Have they got nothing better to do with their time? Have they not got other people to hound over more serious issues than a 66-year-old man who got divorced, bought a piece of land, brought a mobile home to it, cleaned it up, and simply wants to live on it to put a roof over his own head? I know people could be sitting listening to this saying, well, what's the big deal? What's all the hullabaloo about? This man didn't get proper permission for this premises or this dwelling on his own land. Why should he have special privilege granted or exceptions being given? Well, if that was the case, that this was an isolated incident and there were no other cases of this happening in Ireland at the minute, that might be a fair point. However, Sean Meehan goes on to say that he does not understand why the council are being so insistent on the removal of his mobile home, saying that other people he knows have been allowed to retain similar structures by taking actions like encasing them in concrete boards to give them the appearance of houses. Meehan says he has offered to take the same action in respect of his own mobile home, but to no avail. So in other words, he said other people have this set up. They're trying to get round it by putting concrete boards on there to make these mobile homes look like bricks and mortar or concrete fronted houses. He's offered to do that, but they're not budging on it. He claims that despite ordering him to remove his home, Tipperary County Council, who says have advised Meehan to go on the housing list, and join the thousands, tens of thousands of other Irish people that can't get a home. This is a 66-year-old man, remember. They've advised him to go on the housing list and have not offered him any alternative accommodation. Simply, it doesn't exist. Or if it does exist, it's being allocated to people that are coming in claiming asylum or claiming they're fleeing from persecution in other parts of the world and stepping over Irish people to get into Irish houses. Ridiculous. And this is happening as we speak. This is ongoing. He expressed frustration over the fact that planning laws have been suspended in relation to the housing of Ukrainian beneficiaries of temporary protection, otherwise known as BOTP, in modular home units in his home country, while nothing is being done to help native people, in his own words, in native housing. Yeah, we're seeing this more and more. Modular houses being brought in these camps that are being set up. Hundreds and hundreds of men are going in modular accommodation. No problem whatsoever getting that through the planning board. But when an Irishman decides to buy a piece of land, clear that land, put a mobile home on there to put a roof over his own head at 66 years of age following a divorce, all of a sudden there's a problem with it, and you can understand this man's frustration. Last April, it was reported that there was disquiet in Clonmel over the government's provision of modular homes for Ukrainians, with Mayor Independent Councillor Richie Malloy saying that people who are on the waiting list for many years are saying, why wasn't this done years ago for them? And therein lies the problem. There are many, many people waiting for houses in Ireland. They've been living in hostel type accommodation. They've been living in communal facilities. Why were the hotels not thrown open for them years ago? Why were modular homes not put together for them years ago? It seems to be not an issue when people are coming in from outside of Ireland. They're being given the red carpet treatment, while Irish people are being shoved to the side or brushed onto the mat like dirt, and that is the problem. So this issue with housing in Ireland isn't getting any better. It's probably going to get even worse before it gets better. And the people, the architects of this, the Irish government, have been voted in again. You know, you talk about turkeys voting for Christmas or people with Stockholm Syndrome forming a bond with people that are oppressing them. Nothing more so could be exemplified than what's happening in Ireland with its housing crisis and the Irish people voting back the same government that caused them all this pain and grief in the first place. So, no doubt, updates will follow in this one. But for now, this is Rick Munn, No Risk, No Reward Media, over and out.